Okay, so another big day in the process. This is day 16, and I let it sit more than 2 weeks, partly because I didn't have time the last couple days, but also my temp sat a little bit lower than normal, 64, 65, 66. It's been a little cold around here, so I wanted to give the yeast a little more time. Don't worry if you see kind of this mess on the outside. That's typical. That's something you're going to want to clean off really well. So what I do to prep for today is to get my 10-gallon bucket, and I'm going to put in 2 to 3 ounces of star sand. And I'm going to do two things with that water. One, I'm going to put maybe a half a gallon in our, basically our beer bottler bucket here, which is everything from here is going to come into here except most of the mess. And I'll show you why here in a second. So I'll use it to clean that, just maybe a half gallon out of that. And then the rest, I had these, if I'm pronouncing it right, Grolsch bottles. They're green and some brown. They're tinted to help with the process. Sunlight is a bad thing for the secondary fermenting process. It creates carbonation. And I have about 33 of these 16 ounce. Now I usually do the 22 ounce bottles, but I just got these given to me. So I figured I don't want to cap them today. So I'm going to take the easy way out. And I will be soaking these for at least 5 minutes inside this star sand before I pull them out for the bottling. A couple other items that I use is the plastic tubing and then this siphoner tube that goes into the fermenter, and that's what's going to draw the liquid out. The bottom of the siphon here gives you about an inch gap, and what that does is that sits above the sludge line inside the bottom, and so when you're getting the siphoned beer out, it's not going to go through there because it's above the sludge line. Usually you use sugar with the bottle. Instead this time I'm going to use these carbonation drops. They're just like a sugar candy, but obviously you pick it up from the brewer. 1 per 16 ounce bottle that you're going to throw in the bottom. That's going to be part of that secondary process. So I'm going to put, after I completely sterilize the bottles, I'm going to put one of these in the bottom, and then I'm essentially going to just pour beer and just plug the top with these automatic lids. Now you can, for cheaper, just get the regular brown bottles and cap them yourself. You'd get this capper here, and you could buy caps at the brewery, from the brewer. A lot of these just come in the big kits. These are easy to find and everything like that. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to clean these, get them sterilized. Then I'm going to put them, connect them up here into siphoning mode. And then I'm also going to sterilize this and start putting the bottles into this. Okay, so I'm going to swirl around the tube. I'm going to move this back and forth. I'm going to draw water in and out of it by plunging, pulling out, and just running it through to disinfect. Through about half a gallon of water in there that I'm going to swirl around, and then run through the outlet on that a few times just to really get this clean. Keep your hands clean throughout the process. Keep them washed clean from the beginning, and then anytime you really want to sterilize your hands, just kind of soak them in the mixture there. And I did put about 3 ounces of star sand in there, just a little more. I really only needed 2, but I always like to go a little bit more. And then once I get this disinfected, I'm going to put it in the fermenter, and then I'm going to put in the Grolsch bottles to soak, and then we'll start this siphoning. When you take this cap off, just kind of get your hands nice and sterile, and then you come in and you just pop that out just very carefully, best as you can. Been swirling this a bunch. Just make sure everything at this stage for sterile is key, because this is at a temperature that cannot be cleaned again, so everything you do has to be sterile. So be really, really careful with that. Running the spout out through the bucket, make sure the whole spout line is clean. Okay, once in this position and it's in there, and you have the base of the siphon in the bottom, and I angle it just a little so it's near the back, and you're just going to lift up on this section here, and you're going to push down gently, and once you get that first little bit of liquid over, it's going to siphon all the way through, and you're going to let it run until it comes completely empty. Now I'm going to put the bottles in here to disinfect as well. Okay, and with one press about halfway up, pushed it down, and we've got the siphon. And once that's going, you're good. And you really can just let it go until the end. specifically because even if there's a little bit of sludge, that sludge is going to sit below the spigot right here. And this spigot right here is what you're going to fill the bottles with. So if you do get some sludge at the bottom, give it a little time to settle, maybe 15, 20 minutes when you're done or whatever. You don't want to leave this open air too long, but even just 5 minutes will give it some time to settle. Or even during the process when you are bottling, that heavier stuff's going to sink to the bottom. So this takes a little bit of time. I've got 18 bottles sitting in here that are just going to soak during this process. Then I'm going to take them out, get the other bottles ready. And then once this is empty, we will start to bottle. Okay, once it's done pouring into the bottler bucket, then you're going to want to immediately take your fermenter, carboy, and wash it, because once that stuff dries on, it's really hard to get out. So wash these things right away. Let your bottles soak a little bit longer. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull these out, but these ones that I pulled out and have been sitting there, dump them again if there's a little bit of residue on the bottom. The star sand's not a huge deal on the bottom, but the less the better. It could add maybe a little bitterness or, you know, the extra chemical flavor you don't want. So give that an extra dump as well. And then our next step will be to put the little sugar drop in the bottom for the carbonation. So this is what you would want for cleaning just this part really well. And then of course I'm going to just use some of this old stuff to shake through it multiple times and to clean it with, just to reuse it. But this just goes in and you just keep scraping around on the edges of this until you can get it all. And then just keep rinsing it. Don't be afraid to use just soap and water at first and then use the star sand at the end, but really just clean this early before it all cakes on there. Okay, I did my second dump of the bottles, so I have 33 ready to go. Anything left over, I'm of course going to check it, taste it, make sure it tastes good. You can drink it at this stage, it's just a little flat. There's the color of your brew, and it's not filtered, so if you're looking for something with more transparency, you won't find it here. I don't filter or anything like that. I just kind of like all the flavors. I don't care if it's transparent or slightly semi-transparent or whatever. I just like it as it is. Usually really good flavor. It smells good, so that's a good sign. And then my next step, I'm gonna sterilize my hands, kind of carefully open the bag and then drop one of those drops into each bottle. Then I'm going to just turn the spigot, fill the bottle up to just the neck there. Right on the neck is about 16 ounces. Give it a little bit of room to breathe, maybe slightly below it. And that's really it. Whenever I pour it, I just kind of let it go down the sides a little bit. You may get some of the star sand push-ups out of the bottle a little bit. Regardless, I still try to fill it up just below the neck there. And then you just cap it. And everything's been sterilized. And so once I put in the sugar, I'll pour, I'll cap, then I put it in the dark for another 2 weeks. So I'll show you this next stage here in just a second. Okay, so I put a little bit of the sugar drop in the bottom. Got my first bottle, and I just kind of let it dribble down the side a little bit, but I'd run it, turn the spout, and get it near the top. You might get a little bit of foam like I said earlier. That's okay. You can set it off to the side. You can bottle it later. And then you go to the next one. Okay, so that's it. They're all capped really easily. I've got the dregs left that I will sample. I forgot to check, I think this came in at about 4.5 gallons, but I don't remember. You've got 33 bottles though, 33 16-ounce bottles that I will be giving away for Christmas presents this year in winter almost of 2022. Give them in 4 packs, 2 packs, that kind of thing. People really like them. I always like to take just a taste of this a bit, just to make sure it doesn't smell like feet or taste like feet or taste funny or anything like that. You don't want it to be vinegary. You want to taste the hops. Obviously it's not going to have the carbonation, but for whatever reason, if it tastes really bad, I wouldn't even bother with this. But you know, if you followed this right, you're probably going to be in really good shape, but just always be careful. I always just take a taste. Smell is big. It helps if there's something bad with it. And then again, clean everything, disinfect, clean, and enjoy. Hopefully this helped you with a new hobby. But yeah, one last bit. I'm gonna just grab this and take a quick sip myself. Take a smell. Quick sip. And to me, that tastes a little bit like a Mack and Jack's. So I'm happy with that. I taste a little bit of the berry that I put in there as well. So, all right, happy brewing.